everyone, this is Krystal, and today I'm working in my December documented album for 2020. I have an idea for a page, but before I do that, I want to make some embellishments. So I thought I would make some rosettes. I have a few little bits and pieces that are scraps from some of the other pages that I've already made, and I thought they were just asking to be made into rosettes. So that's what I'm going to do. I think these are the ones I'm going to use to create rosettes. They may end up being a page of their own, or they may end up just sprinkled throughout the album as embellishments. I'm not sure. I'm going to leave that option open for me as I get to December. But today I'm just going to make the rosette. So I have the paper, I have my scoreboard, I have my very old, very dirty hot glue gun. I think that's the best way to adhere the rosettes. I have the best luck with that. And then I also have the embellishments. I especially wanted to have these out because I thought those would be perfect for the inside of each of the rosettes. I did also grab a few of the circles from the die cut pack, and then there are some circles on here, and I thought maybe even some of these stars or trees would look cute, and then maybe even some puffy stickers. I'm not sure. We're just going to play around and see how it goes. First, though, I need to make the actual rosette. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and walk you through the process of doing that. So the first step in this process is to trim all of these scraps of paper down to thin strips. So I'm starting with the scraps, and those I'm just cutting directly in half. None of these papers are longer than 8 inches. Of course, they're all from the kit. They were all 6x8 papers, and you really need a strip of paper that's longer than 8 inches to make a rosette. So to get over that problem, I'm just cutting 2 strips, and then I'll end up gluing them together to make one longer strip that I'll turn into a rosette. So I'm starting by just cutting them in half so that they're the same width so that I can glue them together. Some of these, that one there, I don't end up using because it was not really wide enough to cut in half. Some of these are much bigger than they really need to be, so I will just cut 2 strips off of them, the 6x8 papers there. I won't use that whole thing. I don't cut any strips wider than 1.5 inches, which will make a 3-inch rosette, or slightly larger than 3-inch rosette, which will fit onto a 3x4 pocket if I so choose to do so. So I didn't want anything bigger than that. But the rest of them are not the same width. They're all kind of different widths depending on what size the paper was. I'm totally okay with that. I don't need them to be any particular size. These are just going to be embellishments in my album. So once I cut all of these into thin strips, I need to score them. So I'm going to bring back my little scoring tool here. Of course, it's not long enough to score these papers in one go, so I do have to move them down, but you'll see that here in just a second. I'm scoring every 1/4 inch, and I find it easier to turn my scoring board around so that I can see the little measurements on the board that are written at the top there, and that way it's easier to hold it in place as well. But you, of course, score it in any way that you're comfortable scoring it, and then I will turn it around and I'll just use that last score line I made and kind of slip it into the groove of one of the 1/4 inch marks, and that will help it line up perfectly so I can finish scoring the rest of this paper. You don't have to have a scoreboard to do this. You can use a bone folder and your cutting tool, like your trimmer. The little guide in your trimmer will work just fine, or you can fold them by hand. I find that this is the best way to get really even folds in my papers. So once I have all of those scored, you can see there, they're all just kind of curled up there to the side. I'm going to use my fingers and accordion fold them. So I'm folding one backwards and the next one forwards, and on and on and on until all of these papers are completely folded. Again, you could absolutely do this by hand. You aren't going to get as even of folds, but if that doesn't bother you, then you don't need any other tools other than your hands to be able to do this. So the one thing I do make sure to do is to fold one half starting upwards and the other half starting downwards. I hope that makes sense, so that they can fit together, so I can glue them together into one long strip. So the end of one strip will have the last fold pointing down, and the end of the other strip will have the last fold pointing up, and that way they'll fit together like a little puzzle. So I didn't make you watch all of that folding, but once I have all of them folded, I'm just going to use my glue gun and add a tiny strip of glue to the back side of the one that's pointing downwards, and then I'll slip that other one inside, and then I have one long strip. I'm going to do that for each of these. Again, you can use any adhesive you have. I found that the glue gun works best because it has a little bit of wiggle room when it's still hot, but then it dries very quickly and stays in place, so I don't have to hold all of these pieces together for very long. So now that I have all those double strips created into one strip, I can glue the other ends together to make a circle. So now I have all of them glued into a circle, and it's time to actually make the rosettes. So I find it's easiest to kind of dry fit the rosettes together, to fold down the inside of these circles to create the rosette before actually trying to adhere them. You'll see me struggle a bit, especially with this first one. I get into a groove after a couple, and it takes a little bit to kind of figure out how to manipulate this paper in the way that you want it to go. But if you get it used to kind of folding down into a rosette before you start adding any adhesive, I do find that that does help a little bit. And then I just take little circles of paper. That's just white cardstock that I used a circle punch to punch. I think it was a 1 1/4 inch circle punch. I added some glue with my hot glue gun to that circle, and then I folded the rosette down on top of it. And then once I have it all in place, I add additional glue to the center of that rosette to make sure that it all stays put and doesn't move around. You do have to hold that down for a little bit to get it to stay in place, and that is going to depend on the kind of glue you have in your glue gun, but it does take just a minute to all cool off and dry and adhere together. I had to add some glue to my glue gun there for a second, but here I am with the second one. I just add a bunch of glue to that circle, and then I'm going to fold the rosette down on top of it, make sure everything is in place, and then hold it together until it stays put. I do actually end up grabbing a couple stamp blocks and putting them on top to hold them in place while I work on the next one, and that helped quite a bit as well. So there, I'm just going to place a stamp block on top of it and then start working on the next one. So I think I'll show you one more here before I fast forward. And again, don't make you watch all of these, but you get the general idea. You want to make sure you have a good amount of glue on those circles when you go to stick down the rosettes. It does help to make sure they stick. And then again, I find that adding that extra glue in the center really helps them hold together. You don't want so much that it's sticking up above the rosette, but you just want enough to make sure that all those interior pieces are well glued down to your circle. So once you get all of the rosettes glued down to your little circles of paper, then it's time for the fun part, which is the embellishing. So once I finish this one, I'm going to fast forward to when I have them all glued together, and I can start playing with how I want these rosettes to look. So I'm going to grab some embellishments. I'm also going to grab some additional paper because I want there to be a circle of paper behind most of the embellishments that I add to the center of these circles. So I'm just playing around with what might work first, and then I'll grab those extra scraps of paper and use my circle punch to punch a few circles to go behind these tiny little round chipboard pieces. You can see they look a little bit small on some of those rosettes, so adding a larger larger circle of paper behind them is going to help fill them out, and again add some more color and pattern and make these even more fun than they already are. So there's some of the papers. I'm going to grab some additional papers. I had some other scraps, but I will end up cutting into some of the full sheets as well to get a variety of patterns. I did have to grab a larger circle punch. I think I have a 1 1/4 and a 1 1/2 inch punch, but some of those die cuts were quite a bit bigger, so I grabbed my 2 inch and I think 1 3/4 punches as well. My 2 inch punch doesn't punch very well, so I struggle with it a little bit, but eventually I get it to punch through this paper, and then I can start playing around. I'm going to play around with these different patterns and embellishments quite a bit before settling on which ones I want to actually use. Because I don't really know where they're going, I don't have a page that I'm adding them to. I'm just making these in advance. I don't really know what patterns I want. I'm just going to have to kind of wing it. But luckily, all the things in this kit go together really well. So I know that whatever I add to these rosettes, I will be able to find a place in my album to use them. I had considered, I said at the beginning, I think, that I had considered creating a single page with all of these, maybe using a sheet of acetate and maybe kind of creating a cascade of these rosettes down that page. But at this point, I'm really leaning towards just kind of sprinkling them throughout the album. They are very dimensional, so it's going to add a lot of bulk to the album, but I don't anticipate having a lot to add to my album this year, so I'm not too worried about not having space for these. If space is an issue for you, you maybe want to add them all onto one page, so you're only adding that bulk in one spot in your album, or maybe only create a couple of them to add in one spot. That won't create any additional bulk. You'll just have it in that one page in your album. But they are a lot of fun to make, and they do look really beautiful on a finished page. So I think they're worth a try if you're not too worried about having your album be too fat. So still just playing around with the patterns and the colors of these. I'm trying to get a good amount of contrast between the embellishments and the rosettes and the papers that I'm adding to make them really stand out, to make those center embellishments really stand out on these rosettes, but to not take away too much from the pattern in the rosette as well. So it's just kind of a balancing act, trying to figure out what I can add to each one to make them really look finished. I ended up taking off that 25 just because there would only be the one day I'd be able to use it in my album, and I didn't want to limit myself like that. So I end up switching it out for a different chipboard embellishment, and then I'll just add a different piece of paper behind it to finish it out. I think it would have been really cool to add some thread behind these to create some kind of little thread bundles behind some of these embellishments, but I didn't have any thread handy, and I was honestly too lazy to go look for where I had stashed it. I recently moved everything around, actually moved my entire craft area into a different room in our house, so things are a little bit chaotic, and I didn't have the patience to go searching for thread on this day, but I think that would look really cool as well. It would add additional texture to these, and you could even also add some banners below them to make them look more like ribbons. I think that would also look really, really pretty, but these I have just kept pretty simple. Again, I'm not sure where they're going to go in my album, so I could always add additional things later on. So like I said before, the glue gun is really the best way I've found to adhere all of these because they're so textural. You need something that is going to be liquid, but if you use regular liquid glue, you're going to be holding these in place for a very long time. So adding hot glue just helps it adhere really, really quickly, but also get into all those nooks and crannies and make sure that everything is well adhered together. So I'm just finishing up gluing all of these together, trying to get them centered. I'm not too picky about having things perfectly centered together, but I do want it to not look too terribly off-center as well. So trying to center them all on each other and get them all adhered together. And then I'm going to come in with some other embellishments, just kind of do some final touches on these using the puffy stickers and the puffy word stickers as well, the gold puffy stickers as well. So there are the gold puffy stickers. I'm just going to play around and kind of tuck some in here and there to see what I can make work. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the puffy stickers. I do end up adding one additional enamel dot that wasn't part of this kit. Otherwise, everything I've used here has been part of the Sparkle and Joy kit. But I do add a couple little holly leaves on one of these that are from the puffy sticker set, and I felt like I wanted there to be a little holly berry on them as well, and I didn't have anything in the kit that would really work, so I ended up grabbing some enamel dots from my stash, and actually I believe they are from a very old Citrus Twist add-on kit, possibly from February. They were from the Lucky Us collection, and I'm pretty sure it was from the February add-on kit. If it wasn't this February, it would have been last February. I think they were from this February's add-on kit, but I'm not positive. They're definitely not available anymore, but obviously any enamel dot that you have in your stash would work. So there I went searching for those enamel dots. You can see the little holly leaves there. It just needs that little berry at the end, I think. So I tried a few ones from recent kits, but I really wanted a red one. So I went back and got those Lucky S ones. And they happen to be glittery, they're sparkly. So I think that adds even more of a finishing touch to this little rosette. There it is there. I'm just going to add the one, and I think that that looks so cute. Okay, so I am nearly done. I'm just going to look through the embellishments one more time to see if there's anything else I can add. I really wanted to use that little puffy sticker bird, but I couldn't make it work on any of them, so I don't end up using it. But I do add those little candy canes and a star here and there, and yeah, I think that that is just about it. So you're going to see me finish up all of the embellishing here, and then there are some close-up photos as well, so you can really see the dimension and all the details in these rosettes. I hope that you'll give them a try. They really are a lot of fun to make. They're a little bit of work, but I think they're well worth it. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you found some inspiration for some part of your crafting for your December album, and make sure to show us how you're using your albums. If you do create rosettes, I'd love to see them. Be sure to tag me in your post. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you back here very soon.